Students, welcome back to this video. Here is an inspirational quote. You may think why inspirational quotes are so important in our daily life. Quotes can be a source of inspiration and empowerment. It is a proven fact too. So please listen to this quote. To be the best, you must be able to handle the worst. Okay students, come back to the topics. We are going to discuss the general characteristics of kingdom fungi, about their habitat, mode of nutrition, mode of reproduction, then different classes of kingdom fungi such as phycomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes and deuteromycetes. Let us see one by one. Kingdom fungi. General characteristics. They are heterotrophic organisms. They are cosmopolitan. That means we can see everywhere. They grow in warm and humid places. Means their habitat, they are able to grow in warm area as well as in the humid places. Some examples for fungus. They are bread mold, orange rods, mushroom and toadstools. Here you can see white spots on mustard leaf. Actually, they are parasitic fungus. This toadstool is a toxic mushroom. This is the mushroom. We all are familiar with this fungus. Orange rods, then bread mold. It is also familiar to us. What about the next characteristics? Some fungi are the source of antibiotics. Example, penicillium. We have studied in lower grade. Penicillin is the first antibiotic and it is isolated from the fungus named Penicillium notatum. And it is isolated by the scientist Alexander Fleming. I think you all remember that. Then some fungus are unicellular, especially yeast is the unicellular fungi. This yeast is used to make bread, beer, etc. Even to make the batter to prepare snacks, we use yeast. So, name the unicellular fungi, that is yeast. Then other fungi cause diseases in plants and animals. Wheat rust causing or caused by the fungus Puccinia. See, except this unicellular yeast, other all fungi are filamentous. Their bodies consist of long, slender, thread-like structures. This structure is known as hyphae. Hyphae. The network of hyphae is known as mycelium. This network, full network is known as the mycelium. The body of fungi are made up of long filamentous structures. These filamentous structures are known as hyphae. You can see here. Then they are arranged in the form of network. It is known as the mycelium. Then hyphae are of two types based on the presence of or absence of septa. If septa is present in between, they are known as septate hyphae. They have septa or cross walls. Septa means cross walls. If there is no any septa, if there is no any cross walls, they are known as cenocytic hypha. Then what about their cell wall? Fungal cell possesses cell wall. The cell wall is made up of chitin. In some fungi, it is made up of chitin. In others, it is made up of polysaccharides. Mode of nutrition. Most of them are saprophytes. That means they absorb food from dead substrates. Some are parasites. Parasitic fungi causes diseases. Some live as symbionts, means symbiotic association. Association of fungi and alga, that is known as symbionts. We have studied according to R.H. Whittaker's classification. There are five kingdoms: Kingdom Monera, Kingdom Protista, Kingdom Fungi. That means we are studying about that kingdom fungi. Then Kingdom Plantae, Kingdom Animalia. Among the Kingdom Plantae, alga are the primitive one. So this is one of the member of the plant kingdom. This is kingdom fungi. So association of fungi with the lower plants, that association is known as lichens. Then sometimes they live with the roots of higher plants. So association of fungus with the roots of higher plants known as mycorrhiza. Myco, the word myco means fungi. Rhiza means a root. What about the reproduction of fungus? Three types of reproduction we can see. Vegetative propagation. Second one is asexual mode of reproduction. By asexual spores, there is no any sex. Spores are participating. Sexual reproduction is by sexual spores. Okay, once again, this is one of the important part from your examination point of view, and it is somewhat confused area. So listen carefully. The reproduction of fungi divided into three. They are vegetative propagation, sexual reproduction, and asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is by asexual spores, while sexual reproduction is by sexual spores. Then we can see what are the different types of asexual spores, sexual spores, and different methods of vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is divided into three. They are fragmentation, fission, budding. Then asexual spores, which are they? The asexual spores are one is conidia, sporangiospores, and zoospores. Study these names: conidia, sporangiospores, and zoospores. While oospores, ascospores, basidiospores, etc., are coming under sexual reproduction. Means etc. are sexual spores. Which are the asexual spores? Conidia, sporangiospores, and zoospores. Then which are the sexual spores? Oospores, ascospores, basidiospores. Asexual spores: Conidia, sporangiospores, and zoospores. Sexual spores: oospores, ascospores, and basidiospores. These spores are different in different classes of fungi. So based on their classification, The spores are different. Okay. Vegetative propagation by fragmentation, fission, and budding. You can see the fragments are formed from the parental body. Then fission. This is known as fission that is present in yeast. Here budding. Buds are formed. Later these buds detached from the mother body or mother cell and that gives rise to new organism. Asexual reproduction by spores such as conidia, sporangiospores and zoospores. Do you want to see the photos? Please listen. These are the sporangiospores. These are the conidia and these are the spores, zoospores. Conidia, sporangiospores. Okay, here you can see the conidia. Sorry, zoospores. Sorry, zoospores. Then sexual reproduction by oospores, ascospores, and basidiospores. They are producing distinct structures called fruiting bodies. Means these spores are produced in a special kind of structures. So that structures are known as fruiting bodies. These structures are known as fruiting bodies. Which are the sexual spores? Oospores, ascospores, and basidiospores. Then, three types of sexual cycles we can see among fungi. What are the three types of sexual cycle? We have studied three types of sexual spores. That is based on the what type of fungi are they. Then three types of sexual cycles are there. One is plasmogamy. Second one is karyogamy. And the third one is meiosis. So plasmogamy means fusion of protoplasm of two motile or non-motile gametes. Karyogamy means fusion of two nuclei. So meiosis in zygote resulting in haploid spores. Meiosis in zygote resulting in haploid spores. So, I think you all have studied there are two types of cell division. They are mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis means that is responsible for growth, and meiosis is responsible for reproduction. Meiosis is responsible for reproduction. Here, these are the three steps of sexual cycle. What is plasmogamy? Fusion of protoplasm. Karyogamy? Fusion of nucleus. The fusion of two protoplasm, plasmogamy. Then nuclei also fused. Karyogamy occurs. So that zygote is produced. Zygote gives rise to meiosis and produces the spores. The spores are haploid. Then from the spores, this hyphae are produced. Okay. In sexual reproduction, two haploid hypha come together and fuse. In some fungi, fusion of two haploid cells immediately result in diploid cells, diploid 2N. In some fungi, fusion of two haploid cells immediately results in diploid cells. In ascomycetes and basidiomycetes, a dikaryotic stage or dikaryophase, that is n plus n, that is two nuclei per cell occurs. Such a condition is called dikaryon. Later, parental nuclei fuse and the cells become diploid. So if I explain this diagram, you will not be able to understand uh, because we are going to study about the divisions of fungi later. Then only you will be able to understand this diagrammatic sketch. Okay, that time I will explain once again. Fungi form fruiting bodies in which reduction division occurs, leading to formation of haploid spores. Based on the morphology of mycelium, mode of spore formation, and fruiting bodies, fungi are classified as follows. There are four classes of fungi: phycomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes, and deuteromycetes. What are the four classes of fungi? Phycomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes, and deuteromycetes. Let us see one by one. We can study in detail about all the four classes of fungi. First one is phycomycetes. Phycomycetes, they are known as lower fungi. What are the characteristics? They occur in aquatic habitats, phycomycetes, and on decaying wood in moist and damp places or as obligate parasites on plants. The mycelium is aseptate. Aseptate means this we have studied already. This condition is known as cenocytic. Cenocytic hyphae. There is no any cross walls in between. What are the different examples? Examples are mucor, rhizopus bread mold. The other term is bread mold. And albugo. It is a parasitic fungi on mustard. Parasite of the mustard plant. What about the reproduction of phycomycetes or lower fungi? Asexual reproduction is by motile zoospores or non-motile aplanospores. What do you mean by motile? Means they are able to move. So the motile spores are known as zoospores. The non-motile asexual spores are known as aplanospores. Here the diagram is given. These are produced in sporangium. We have studied spores are produced in fruiting bodies. Then sexual reproduction, fusion of two gametes from zygospores. These two gametes are fused to form the zygospore. Then gametes are sometimes they are similar. If the gametes are similar, they are known as, listen, if the gametes are similar, they are known as isogamous. If the gametes are dissimilar, they are anisogamous or oogamous. Fusion of two gametes form the zygospores. If the gametes are similar, they are known as isogamous, similar in structure. If they are dissimilar, they are known as anisogamous or oogamous. Second class of fungi is ascomycetes. Sac fungi. They are commonly called sac fungi. They are unicellular. Yeast is the example. Saccharomyces or some are multicellular means ascomycetes. Actually, yeast is unicellular. Then multicellular fungi, example, penicillium. This is very familiar to us because we have studied the first antibiotic. Penicillin is isolated from penicillium. Mycelium is branched and septate. Septa is there. What about phycomycetes? Among phycomycetes, the hypha are xenocytic. There is no any cross walls present in between. What about the mode of nutrition? They are saprophytic. We know what do you mean by saprophytic? Decomposers. They are able to decompose complex structures into simpler forms. Parasitic. Coprophilous. What do you mean by coprophilous? This is new term for you. Coprophilous means, coprophilous means that growing on dung, cow dung. The fungi which grows in dung are known as coprophilous. So what all things we have studied? Some of the members of ascomycetes are unicellular and some of them are multicellular. Unicellular fungi example yeast, multicellular fungi example penicillium. Mycelium is branched and septate. Then what about their mode of nutrition? They are some saprophytic, decomposers, parasitic or coprophilous. Coprophilous means growing on dung. Then ascomycetes next is about their reproduction. Two types of reproduction. They shows sexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is by conidia, produced exogenously. What do you mean by exogenously? The word exogenously means it produces outside the body, exogenously. On the special mycelium called conidiophores, these conidia are produced outside the body in a special mycelium that is known as conidiophores, Phores, conidiophores. Conidia germinate to produce mycelium. So, among ascomycetes or sac fungi, asexual reproduction is by conidia. Where these conidia are produced? Conidia are produced in the conidiophores exogenously or outside the body. Then conidia germinate to produce mycelium. Next, we can see what about their sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction of ascomycetes. Yes, ascospores are the sexual spores. They are produced endogenously inside the body in sac-like asci, singular ascus. Asci are arranged to form ascocarp. This is the ascocarp. Inside the ascocarp, we can see asci. Means these spores we can see. Inside the asci, ascospores are there. So this entire structure is known as the ascocarp. Inside the ascocarp, asci is there. That is a sac-like structure. Inside the sac-like structure, inside the asci, ascospores are there. All these are spores, ascospores. Okay. The examples of ascomycetes. Remember these names: Aspergillus, Claviceps, Neurospora. Which are they? Aspergillus, Claviceps, and Neurospora. Neurospora is used as biochemical and genetic work. This fungi is used in biochemical and genetic work. Then, morels and truffles are edible and are delicacies. Which are they? Morels and truffles. So that's all about ascomycetes. Then what is the third class of fungi? The third class of fungi are basidiomycetes. From this figure, what type of hyphae they possess? Is it cynocytic or septate? Yes, it is septate hypha. Okay. Fungi, among this kingdom fungi, basidiomycetes include Mushrooms, bracket fungi, or puff balls. Examples: bracket fungi. This is known as bracket fungi, and these are known as the puff balls, and these are mushrooms. Mushrooms coming under basidiomycetes. They grow in soil, on logs and tree stumps, and in living plant bodies as parasites. Example for parasites: rust and smuts. Mycelium is branched and septate. The asexual spores are generally not found. Yes, very good. We don't want to study the name of the asexual spores. But vegetative reproduction is there by fragmentation. Then sex organs are absent, but plasmogamy occurs by fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells of different strains or genotypes. The resultant structure is dikaryotic. It gives rise to basidium. Karyogamy and meiosis occurs in basidium, produce four basidiospores exogenously. The spores are haploid because the cell division is meiosis. Basidia are arranged in fruiting bodies called basidiocarp. Basidia are arranged in fruiting bodies called basidiocarps. Example: agaricus, the other term of mushroom, agaricus. Astillago, that is mud. Puccinia, rust fungus. See, this is the Puccinia we can see. Then this is known as Astillago. The last class of deuteromycetes. They are commonly known as imperfect fungi. Why it is known as imperfect fungi? Because only their asexual or vegetative phase are known. There is no any sexual phase. What about the basidiomycetes? Asexual spores are absent, and sex organs are also absent, but plasmogamy, karyogamy, meiosis, etc. occurs. In the case of deuteromycetes, there is no any sexual stage. When perfect, that is sexual stage, were discovered, they were often moved to ascomycetes or basidiomycetes. So it is also possible that the asexual and vegetative stage have been given one name placing under deuteromycetes and the sexual stage another name placing under another class. When the linkages were established, the fungi were correctly identified and moved out of deuteromycetes. Then what about the plant body of this deuteromycetes? This is septate hypha. This is not sinusitic condition. From the picture you are able to say. Then deuteromycetes reproduce only by asexual spores, that is conidia. Some are saprophytes or parasites. Majority are decomposers of litter and help in mineral cycling. Example: Alternaria, Calyptotrichum, and Trichoderma. And Trichoderma. So we have studied about the general characteristics of kingdom fungi as well as the four classes of kingdom fungi, such as, which are they: phycomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes, and deuteromycetes. Okay students, that's all about today's class. Thank you for watching this video.